Hi everybody, welcome to 5 Minute Ministries. We're still continuing on in 1 Kings 13, and when we last left off, the first prophet from Judah had left the second prophet's house, and a lion met him on the way and killed him, and the lion and the man's donkey stood beside the body. And as people were passing by, they were telling the tale of this situation in the city, and the old prophet got wind of it. And we're going to pick up in verse 26. Now when the prophet who had brought him back from the way heard it, he said, "It is the man of God who disobeyed the commandment of the Lord. Therefore the Lord had given him to the lion, which has torn him and killed him according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to him." Then he said to his son, saying, "Saddle the donkey for me." And they saddled it. And he went and found his body thrown on the road, with the donkey and the lion standing beside the body. The lion had not eaten the body, nor torn the donkey. So the prophet took up the body of the man of God, and laid it on the donkey, and brought it back. And he came to the city of the old prophet to mourn and to bury him. He laid his body in his own grave, and they mourned over him, saying, "Alas, my brother." After he had buried him, he spoke to his son, saying, "When I die, bury me in the grave in which the man of God is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones. For this thing shall surely come to pass, which he carried by the word of the Lord against the altar in Bethel, and against all the houses of the high places, which are in the cities of Samaria." Now, there's a few things we can pull from this. It may seem like a throwaway thing, but it certainly is not. First of all, I want to take for granted here that with the attitude that this second prophet took no accountability for his part in this man's death. We see that he does, and I'll explain it when I get there. But let's assume for a moment that he did not. He said, it's the body of the one who disobeyed. Now, there are plenty of people who will try to absolve their guilt, saying, this is the person who did the wrong. I didn't do anything wrong, or my sin was lesser, so I shouldn't endure any punishment. Everything should fall on this other person. The people who are famous for this are like the mobster type people, the crime bosses or whatnot, masterminds. They send out the people who are under them, and those people commit the crimes, while the crime boss says, "I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't there. I was here. But he orchestrated the whole thing." And people try to get away with it by saying, I didn't actually do anything, so it's not my fault. But we are still held accountable for our part in that. Because if we come up with the idea and we send other people to do it, we are just as guilty as those who actually did it. Now, that being said, this man is now trying to make up for what he did the best he could. He lied to the first prophet. And he knew this man would not be buried in his own home or in the family grave. So he said, "I will put this man in my family grave. And when I die, bury me next to him." Because it was a way to honor the first prophet. That is the best he could do. And he said, "I'm burying myself with this man as a testimony that what he said is true. Surely what God told him to tell Jeroboam at the altar of Bethel is going to come to pass." And the fact that this man died in this way and was not eaten by the lion is a testimony that what God said will come to pass. And my burial with this man also is a testimony to that this thing will come to pass. So one thing we constantly forget, that the things God says, they are going to happen. Now, he made a lot of promises about his second coming, and a lot of those have yet to happen, but they are going to happen. He kept his word up until this point. He's not going to go back on it now. Now, I want you to think about the lion and the donkey for a moment. This is a supernatural act. It's going against the instincts of both animals. The lion will go after the donkey and the man for food, and the donkey will run away out of fear of the lion. But that doesn't happen here. God altered the nature of these animals in order to show a testimony against Jeroboam and against the man of God for disobedience. It's a way for God to say, this thing's not only going to come to pass, here's how I'm going to prove it. Because this is a sight that isn't seen. This is not something that happens in nature, and we know this. And God wanted it as a testimony so that all who walked by would see it and say, this isn't natural. and we recognize this prophet, or even if we don't, we'll find out who he is. And when they do, they find out what he said. They find out his interaction with Jeroboam, and I'm sure Jeroboam heard about this instance too. And Jeroboam should take this as a testimony against him. But as we will see next week, he does not. So pay attention when God's trying to get your attention, so he doesn't have to go to drastic measures to get your attention, to get your obedience, and to get you to trust him. This has been 5 Minute Ministries, and I'll see you next time.